So the question is, am I me? Am I an android? Or am I some kind of completely coincidental double? Yeah, screw it. That'll do for an opening. Androids of Tara, the fourth story in Doctor Who's Key to Time series. So this is a fourth Doctor story with the first iteration of Romana, played by Mary Tam. And this one's a little weird to talk about because when I think about most of its component parts and its general energy and what it's going for, I don't think it's bad, but it felt oddly hollow in a way that is hard to pin down because there aren't that many things that I could call glaringly wrong with it. If I were to guess, the thing is that this is a kind of a loose adaptation of a classic adventure novel called The Prisoner of Zenda. If you're not familiar with The Prisoner of Zenda or any of its many adaptations or derivations or riffs, think of it as Prince and the Pauper, but it's an adventure story. So, you look just like me, hijinks ensue, but also swashbuckling. That's Prisoner of Zenda. And this is going for that because we have that sort of on multiple levels. We have the initial thing, which is that Romana, who actually finds the key to time almost immediately, which is a detail I like because they keep going through all this stuff to find the parts of the key to time. She finds it immediately, but then falls into the hand of this count, who is our resident villain, who takes her because she looks exactly like this princess, who he happens to have kidnapped. And so we start with that just wild coincidence. Meanwhile, the Doctor runs into this prince who is going to be crowned as king, and he has all these concerns about being killed on his way to his coronation, and then the Count taking over. And part of his plan is to have an android sort of serve as a decoy. So we have that, and then there's another android of the princess that Romana happens to look like. There's multiple androids going on. And so we've got all that going on, and it's a very medieval kind of setting. Like, there's small touches to try and make it not just purely medieval in nature. Like there's fencing swords, but they have like a little electrical charge at the end. So like it'll pop and flash and like and like, okay. Also, like, they throw some weirdly Middle Eastern looking helmets and headpieces onto some of the characters. I'm like, you just grabbed a bunch of stuff out of the stockroom, didn't you? So here's why it's weird that I don't like it that much. I like this adventure energy. I like Robin Hood. I like stuff like this. I like the Three Musketeers. Like, that's just fun for me. And this is going for that energy. And I actually say the Count in particular captures that kind of villain, like the Sheriff of Nottingham style villain, really well. I even looked at his IMDb and was like, has he ever played the Sheriff of Nottingham? Because he'd be quite good at it. It didn't look like he had, but he had kind of played these kinds of characters in these kinds of stories, and he's real good for it. But somehow, while having a general energy that I enjoy, it's not quite pulling together. And I have to wonder if part of it is because since this is largely an adaptation, a sci-fi adaptation of Prisoner of Zenda, if that kind of took the creative verve out of it a little bit, if like there just wasn't the same sense of ownership and like, this is our thing, it's like, this is our take on a thing. And I wonder if that kind of saps some of the creative juices out of it. I don't know. That's purely speculative. I can talk on my part, but like that's the feel of it. It just feels like there's a little less energy in it. Like right down to the fact that the climactic fencing sword fight that the Doctor has with the Count, it takes place, well, first of all, it drags. This fight drags a while. And like most of it, there's no music. That's a real weird choice to me. And like, it especially doesn't help that I remember how good the swords fights between, say, John Pertwee and Roger Delgado as the Master. I remember how good those were. So watching this is like, maybe we just shouldn't have had the sword fight at all. Another really weird detail, the Count gets away at the end. And then the Doctor, and Romana just leave? Like, the Count's immediate plan has been foiled, sure, but like, he's just alive and gets away? It's very strange to me, especially considering it felt like they'd set up what could have been his ending. Because, like, the very first time we see him, Romana has stumbled onto his lands and is confronted by this not very good looking monster, this just sort of fur thing with this mask with these teeth. Looks like garbage. But the Count chases off and he says, "Oh yes, I keep these on my land so I can hunt them." That feels like a setup so that when he like jumps off the parapet of his castle later and swims away, that feels like a setup where, like, okay, he's got no weapons. He's going to encounter these things and they're going to kill him. But that doesn't happen. He just jumps off and swims away, and we end on a gag of K9 in a boat. It's very strange. I don't know. So like it kind of limps. Actually, that last episode especially, that was the crown of, like, it feels like there isn't a lot of energy in this. It feels like we're here out of obligation, actually right down to the previous episode's cliffhanger, because like the Doctor has gotten everything they're after. Like the heroes have like largely gotten what they need. But then suddenly, oh, the Count has Romana, and he goes riding off on a horse with Romana, and it's like, oh, okay, so now we go back to his castle and rescue her again. It just felt so obligatory. I felt like, well, we can't wrap the story up yet. There's one more episode to go. Romana's captured again by the same guy. Oh, crying out loud. There are some other interesting touches aside from just the swashbuckling energy. I don't want to spend this whole thing being negative. One of the things I actually like about this, because at this point in time, I feel like androids are almost always treated as, in many ways, superior to humans. Like, they are stronger, they are smarter, or at least, can run through raw mathematical calculation and like can compute faster. Smarter is a little more subjective, but like there's that kind of stuff, and that's almost always a given these days with androids, and has been for a few decades. But it's kind of fun to watch this where the androids are janky as hell. And I don't just mean the normal Doctor Who, they look janky. Although whenever they take the face off of one of them, or it's very clearly a dummy because they're about to stab it with something. It is kind of janky. But no. I mean, like, in universe, these androids are delicate and like, you need to program them real carefully. They're real easy to damage. They have very limited uses. Like the Doctor actually, when they're trying to get the would-be king's android to the coronation, the Doctor actually turns off his voice unit for a while just to save battery power. So they don't run for very long. They're easily damaged. They have very limited programming. I actually kind of like that. I kind of like that these things, which in theory, like, if these things are around, why doesn't that cause all these problems? Oh, because they're kind of crap. I don't know. I like that. I feel like that's just kind of a fun thing. If you're the kind of person inclined to pull apart logic issues, like nothing about how this society's political structure makes any sense at all. Like I don't even consider this a knock on it. This is frequently common with a lot of stuff in sci-fi in general, not just Doctor Who. But you stop and think about it for a hot second. Like, okay, so the king who's going to be crowned is required to be at the throne room at a specific time. But if he just happens to drop dead or never show up, then somebody else can just put in a claim. And like, how have you people not had nothing but political? Like this is like that period in the Roman Empire where they kept going through a cycle of each new emperor was just a general who thought he could run things better. And then the Praetorian Guard were paid to kill him. And then another one did the same thing. Somehow thought that wouldn't happen to him. It feels like it should be in that kind of state. But I don't think that's even necessarily a problem or a plot hole. It is kind of funny and amusing to think about. K9's pretty decently used in this, which is nice. I think he shows up at points where it makes sense. And it's not too dragged out. So that stuff largely works. There's a character who's sort of I'll call her the secondary villain, Lamia, She also has pretty good villain energy, and she's like the one who actually knows how to build and repair the androids for the Count. She's also got this massive unrequited, semi-requited, it's not clear, crush on the Count, which is played decently, but like so many things, like, spoiler, she doesn't make it through the 3rd episode, and we've just got the flagging energy of the 4th episode. That really kind of is where things sort of fell apart. I think what it is just the swashbuckling energy that it has doesn't carry the 4 episodes they allotted for it. It runs out of steam after 3, and then it has to limp along for its last episode. Without the narrative contents of that last episode, other than how contrived it is to have Romana just be captured again, other than that, the narrative didn't fall apart in the 4th episode. Just the energy did. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I would leave it at as far as most things are considered. Oh, I guess the other thing I'll note is the actor who plays the prince / would-be king. He actually, when he's playing the android, he's actually pretty good at that. He's quite good at getting a monotone delivery and getting this really vacant look in his eyes. It's actually kind of impressive, and he can sit still really well, like shockingly still. I don't know if they gave him like mime lessons or something to really nail being that still and getting that vacant, but he's good. There's also like a tiny moment that I feel like could have been more, but I do still like that it's there. Which is that at one point when sort of the captain of the guard for the prince is quizzing the android that the doctor has helped program, with questions about policy or whatever, he then turns to the doctor and goes, "Doctor, the answers this android is giving, they're a little too smart." Yeah, this acknowledgement that, like, while this guy's the rightful king, and he's not a bad guy, he seems like he'll be a decent ruler as far as these things go, he's not as smart as the doctor has programmed the android to answer. I don't know. I feel like that there was more to do there, but I guess unless you're going to undermine the idea that maybe this guy shouldn't be ruling either, or maybe monarchies are just BS. If you're not going to take it that level, just having it as a tiny moment is still kind of fun. But yeah, Androids of Tara, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I feel it might be, I'd say on balance, it's probably around similar to where the Rebus operation was. I think Rebus operation had higher highs than this does, but also more stumbles than this. But Pirate Planet's still the best one of the season so far. And Stones of Blood, despite its weird disjointedness at the halfway mark when it completely shifts tone, Stones of Blood is actually really good. Those are the 2 high ranked ones of this season so far. That's probably going to remain the case because next week I got to talk about Power of Kroll. Oh boy. Well, in any case, thank you so much for tuning in for this. Whatever your thoughts might be, drop them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help me out. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Now to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Oliver B., Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Jean Foray, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Melinda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Bernabi Likes the Poodle, Tracy Scrappett, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, White Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toka Blahuvian, Pau Barabajagal, and Mara G. Thank you so much for your support. You can get your name said, maybe even correctly, in the Patreon support tiers. Also, it helps me feed these little buggers.